Recording in progress.
Hey everyone, as promised, I'm back with Stefan Verstappen. I haven't been with Stefan for quite some time, and Stefan, I love you, man. I really do, and thanks for everything you've done, everything you're doing, and everything you will do. Thanks for joining me tonight, mate.
Well, I love you more.
Not more, I love you.
No, I love you more.
No, I love you more. You're the man. You're the man. Listen, Stefan, thanks for everything you're doing. I've watched you for years and years and years on Red Ice, years ago, and you've been on my show quite a lot. Not in the recent times, but what a perfect time to get Stefan back on the show. My goodness, let me just run through a little bit about you, Stefan. You could tell yourself, but I want to show off for you, and we're going to talk about Stefan's brand new online course, which is the Complete Guide to Forming Communities. What a timely moment in history for Stefan to be bringing that forward, because by God, if we don't form communities now, we're in trouble, But so let's go through a few of the books, but wonderful documentaries Stefan's made, Paradise Stolen documentary film, and other documentaries. Busy all the time. Amazing. I don't know what to call you. Journalist, author, martial arts instructor for Pendragon. I've followed you on that as well. It always inspires me because I did martial arts as well at karate. Not as much as you, but I think it set me up for life, really. It gives you much more than the ability to defend yourself. It gives you something spiritual too, and it's never left me. It's always with me, and I've bought a punch bag downstairs, a standing one now. So, okay, let's get. We're all kicking the living daylights out of it, Right, here we go. Let's just get this up, Stefan, just to show you a couple of your books. So we got my one favorite of all, Defense Against the Psychopath. My God, a brief introduction to human predators. Beautiful, man. Household Cyclopedia. That's all these books. The 36 Strategies of Ancient China. The Little Warrior's Street Safety Teacher's Guide. I love that. That's for kids, and that's beautiful. That is. The Art of Urban Survival, a Family Safety and Self-Defense Manual. A Master's Guide to the Way of the Warrior. Honestly, a Blind Zen. Oh, yeah, I forgot that one. Martial Arts and Zen for the Blind and Vision Impaired by Stefan Verstappen. Wow, man. Imagine teaching blind people self-defense. God, So I remember those old warriors, they could, if they were blind, they could feel and see without seeing, and that's what we can all do, guys. And we're being forced back home to start doing this. Okay, I'll open the show as usual with a quick rant, not too much, and then we'll unleash this wonderful man, Stefan Verstappen, on you. Listen, everybody, what a great time. This man, Stefan Verstappen, has been talking about what's coming for years and years and years. Now, granted, so have I, but granted, I didn't think it'd be the Trojan horse, which was going to be, okay, that's for sure. It came in very quickly. It took everyone by surprise, and make no mistake, they're going to push this right through and render you virtually helpless. And the lovely analogy I thought of earlier, was it's like a mosquito. Apparently, before it draws your blood, it anesthetizes the area first, I think, I've been told. And so that's what's happened. We've been deadened with anesthetic now, ready for the big spider to come and pounce on you and put those digital chains around you, ladies and gentlemen, And I'm delighted to be here on the planet now. I've known I was going to be doing a lot of work like this in my life, but my God, as with Stefan, what an amazing time to be here now and know at last we can be who we are, as you have been for longer than me, and speak our truth, which is the truth about, it's like someone said to me today in the shop, Stefan, they said they have to show themselves. They're showing themselves now, to be who they are,
Yeah.
and more people can see it now. There's nowhere to hide. And I believe because the smelling salts was under human noses anyway, and there was a great awakening, obviously, it's now like, oh my God, we've got to stop these humans from gaining any more control. We've got to completely control them via the digital slavery. And by God, it's coming in quick. So very, very timely, your online course, The Complete Guide to Forming Communities. So what do you want to talk about first, Stefan? Let whatever you want to say, mate. I really appreciate you. And thank you for everything you've been doing for so long now. It's wonderful, wonderful.
Well, I got to say thank you for that big build-up.
Hey, no pressure or anything.
And now I got to have to live up to that amazing sterling reputation. Thanks a lot, Jason. Well, what should we talk about? Well, let's talk about the world. The world is going to hell. We've been warning about this. Jason has, I have. We've been, many of us have. Not that many, but many of us have been warning and trying to help people and wake them up. We've been doing that for, me, 25, actually 40 years. I spoke to an old girlfriend I dated when I was in high school, and she said, "How are you doing?" I said, "Well, I've gotten really anti-government and conspiratorial." She says, "You were always like that." I said, "Really?"
I was always running away from school when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too. I dropped out of high school and when I was 17. Oh, wow. Look, 8 books later. And, those books are in the libraries of the colleges I attended since dropping out of high school. Yeah. So
Wow.
if I go back to my old universities, and I went to every one, you go to the library there's my book. So, okay. So much for a high school education. If I could do it over again, I would have dropped out when I was 16, because that was your legal age. You could drop out. What a waste of time, all that public education. Complete waste and total waste of time, especially if you're an autodidact. If you can learn for yourself, if you can, like your car breaks down and you need a new water pump, and you get out the auto manual and you look how to, you remove these screws and you pull that out and then you bring this in and you pull those wires and you put it back together. Who can't follow that? I mean, I don't know. If you can follow that, then you don't need high school, and you certainly don't need a public education, because, and that's what we'll talk about today too, because, what I've been trying to do for the last 10 years or last 20 years is provide solutions. Look, we know we're going down, right? So what do we do? How do we save ourselves? How do we save our civilization? And so that's what I've been working on. I would be way more popular if I just talked about the bad news every day. If I just got on and said, "Oh, what, today the government did this, and that's the bastards," and then, and Mark Zuckerberg did that, the bastards. But, and I watch a lot of the channels that do bitch about the events of the day. I don't mind them at all. But where's the answers? Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. These guys are all a bunch of sons of bitches. They're evil psychopaths, hell bent on destroying the world and killing you and your family and your grandchildren. Okay. So what do we do? What do we do, Jason? So I've been focusing on that. And, I came out with that video, must have been 8 years ago. It was based on an article I wrote for Gerald Salente's Trends Journals. And I remember you just had Gerald on your show not too recently.
I love him, Stefan. He's a wonderful man.
Yeah, me too. I love Gerald too. And, I was honored to have him publish that article in his Trends Journal. And I also created a video for it. The article in the Trends Journal, "Are We Doomed to Repeat the Past?" and the video of the same name predicts that we're going into a civilization collapse. And again, like I said, so what do we do? What do we do? I went back through history again. What did the people in the past do? What happened after the fall of the Roman Empire? What happened after the fall of the Ottoman Turks? What happened after the fall of Babylon and Egypt and all the Chinese dynasties? How did people survive during what is called the Age of Chaos? Now, what happens in the Age of Chaos is everything collapses. So everything we take for granted now will be gone. So what do we take for granted? Hospitals, EMTs, ambulance service, police protection, welfare, unemployment insurance, pensions, a supply chain, grocery stores, all those things that we take for granted, they're all going to be gone. So when the complete chaos hits, how are we going to source all this stuff? Well, the lessons from history show that what people in the past did, formed communities. They formed different types of communities, and I talk about this in the course and in the book. Some of the earliest communities were monasteries and nunneries. Certainly after the fall of the Roman Empire, monasteries were places that maintained the knowledge of the former Roman Empire. In other words, all the books were in monasteries. The only place you could get an education was a monastery. That's why the aristocracy during the Dark Ages, the barons and the dukes and earls, they all sent their sons to study at a monastery because this was the equivalent to sending them to college. Because the monasteries maintained the knowledge, they recopied the books, they had libraries. The other thing the monasteries did was they were completely self-sufficient in terms of food production. They ran their, they worked their own fields, they grew vegetables and grains, and even grapes, depending on where in Europe that monastery was, like in Italy and in Greece. They grew their own grapes, and they also created their own industries. They wove cloth, they raised sheep, they sheared the sheep, they wove it into wool, and they used looms and weavers to take that wool and make clothes. They harvested grapes and made their own wine and spirits. So this gives you an idea of how or what kind of an organization we need in order to survive. Something that would contain, and of course also, they had their own doctors, men that were trained in medicine and herbal medicine because that's all they had in those days. So this gives you an idea of how we're going to survive this. Well, we need a tight-knit community, no more than 100 people. Even less was fine. And you maintain the educational standards. So in my book, I talk about homeschooling. So when the collapse comes, there's going to be no schools. Who's going to look after the kids? Well, you're going to have to form a community and form your own homeschooling classes. The monks grew their own food, so how are we going to do it? Well, we're going to form food co-ops and garden co-ops and learn scavenging skills and learn how to barter to provide for our own food. The monasteries were able to provide their own medicine, so we're going to do the same thing. We'll fund our own medical care. This is what our great-grandparents did, and I'll talk about that too in a minute. They funded their own medical care, and it was much better than what we have today. And the final aspect of the monastery is you need a few guys trained in the art of war. Because the monasteries were successful, especially like during the Dark Ages. And because they were successful, they were prone to predation by roving gangs and armies. Because the countryside was devastated. There were roving gangs, and we'll see that too. Roving gangs of looters running around the country looking for a house that might have, some food stockpiled in the basement. They're going to hit you. They're going to go for you, and that's what they did during the Dark Ages. So the small villages were constantly being raided and attacked and looted by gangs of robbers. Sometimes they were like militia. Sometimes they were king's men or the kind of militia that the duke or local baron would form to enforce his power. But basically they were robbers. So one other thing to add to the mix is you need some tough men in the community. And we can see this with, for example, the Knights Templar. They were the most revered fighting knights, from the Middle Ages on to during the Crusades and so on. And also we can go back even further to the Shaolin Temple in China, because that was a monastery, but they trained in martial arts. And the reason they trained is because they get attacked all the time. As a matter of fact, they were attacked and burned to the ground at least 6 times. 4 times by roving bands of bandits and twice by their own government. What else is new? And we can also cite the Yamabushi in Japan, who were, again, Buddhist monks. They lived in a monastery, but they practiced martial arts, and they were, again, renowned for their prowess in battle. And they tried to take them over. They put up a really good fight, but eventually the Imperial Japanese forces under the shoguns defeated them and slaughtered them all. But listen, you need some tough men in your community. So this is the solution that I learned from history. First of all, you need to get people together and form a community where you can rely on each other, where you can trust each other, people that have a wide variety of skills that they can contribute. Some people are good cooks, some people are good hunters, some people are good at fixing things. You need all those people in your community. You need a few people in the community that are, that know how to use a firearm. I'm always in favor of everybody having a firearm if they can. I know, Jason, where you are in England, there you are not allowed to own a firearm, but nevertheless,
I got my wife. She can beat the shit out of anybody, including me. I'm only joking. I'm only joking, Louise. I'm only joking. Go on. Sorry, she'll kill me for that. Go on.
just don't piss her off. But listen, a cane is your second best weapon, almost better than a handgun. So make sure you're armed with a cane, a baseball bat, and the absolute king of weapons is a spear. So get a 6-foot piece of doweling, get some duct tape, and get a Bowie knife, and duct tape the Bowie knife to the end of that piece of doweling. And you can fend off 5 guys with that easily, provided they don't have firearms. Anyways.
Oh, and also, sorry, Stefan, to jump in. I've also seen you with your weapons doing your martial arts. It's very, very impressive. It's amazing how you've trained yourself to do that, and wow, very, very amazing to watch you doing that.
Oh, well, thank you, Jason. Yeah, well, I love it. That's why it's fun. The spear form is a beautiful form. It's fun. It's flowing. It's circling. Well, anyways. Don't get me started. It's like art, but it's movement, right? So I liken it more to dance. It's like a dance, and you sing the body electric. It's anyways. So that is what I have learned from history is we need to form communities, and there's hundreds of communities. I list 17 in the book, and in the course I might not list all of them because I had to cut it short for some stuff. But there's at least 17 different types of communities that you can form. Start forming them right now to help you along the way. Now here's the problem, though, Jason, is the powers that be know the only threat to their power. It's not us protesting. It's not us, writing nasty letters. It's not YouTube videos. The only threat to their power is if the people were to form their own autonomous communities and disengage from government. They know that's their Achilles heel. If we don't give them our power, they don't have power. So we need to withdraw the power. But how do we withdraw from Walmart and health insurance and welfare benefits? How do we withdraw from that? It's almost impossible. But we can withdraw from that through the formation of our communities, because if we go back 100 years, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, if you're younger, they never had health insurance. They never had unemployment insurance. They never had welfare. They never had food stamps. There were, the almshouses and the workhouses, but that was hardly charity. So what did they do? Well, they formed communities. Hello, there's the answer again. And the communities they formed were called benevolent societies, mutual aid societies, friendly societies, fraternal societies. And what these communities did was every member had to pay in a monthly membership fee. Now, this monthly membership fee was the equivalent to 1 day's pay per month. And that 1 day's pay per month because they belonged to the Friendly Society, provided them with complete medical coverage, dental coverage, unemployment insurance, emergency cash funds. If you suddenly had a big bill and you needed a couple of $1,000 to pay it, then the Friendly Society would loan it to you. And the reason this worked so well was because now, the services we get from the government, we pay in taxes. So every time they say, "Oh, it's a free vaccination," no, what do you mean free? You're paying for it. We're paying for it through our taxes in the trillions of dollars. There is nothing free from the government. Anybody that says the government gives something away for free, please kill yourself, because you're too stupid to continue contributing to the gene pool. There is no free. But because these communities ran it themselves, that means all the money they collected from their members went to providing the services they paid for. You pay the money to the government takes 95, 97%, spreads it among their cronies, siphons it off with their phony contracts, no bid contracts to do this, so that, 3 cents on the dollar actually goes to medicine, or actually goes to the welfare programs, or whatever they're robbing us under whatever pretext. But in a friendly society, a mutual aid society, all the money, everybody knows what's going on with the money. Every member has access to the bank account, and that money goes to providing members with the services. Now, what happened was they became so successful. After a couple of years, every month, you got 100 people putting in a day's pay, that they eventually built their own clinics. No, first off, they started off they hired a doctor, and this is going way back. So you joined the Friendly Society. That money went to hire a doctor full-time to look after only the community. And he got the same amount of money whether he saw 10 patients a day or he saw 2 patients a day. And by the way, I believe the average doctor nowadays has something over 2,500 patients on their roster. So these doctors only had to look after a maximum a couple of hundred people. Now, if they didn't have to treat somebody, they just stayed home. They still got the same money. They weren't billing by the hour to the Mutual Aid Society. They got a standard fee every month. A good fee, enough to make a happy life. So the incentive for the doctors were to keep their patients healthy. They didn't want them to get sick, because the sicker their patients were, that meant the more they worked, and it didn't mean they're going to get paid more. So here's the incentive: keep your patients healthy, which, by the way, is the same incentive that Chinese medicine doctors have. You pay the Chinese medicine doctor until you got sick. Then you stop paying them. So in Chinese medicine, the emphasis was to make sure you were healthy all the time. That way they made money. It's what you reward is what you're going to get. So if you reward the concept that you want your patients healthy, you want to provide, and this is going to be a dirty word, cures. It's a dirty word among the AMA, the medical associations, and the NHS there in England. Nobody is cured in England, right? Because they want to keep you sick. That's where the profit is. So they went they started by hiring one doctor, and he would do house calls. And I'm actually old enough to remember one time when I was sick, I had an ear infection, and the doctor came to my house to look at me. Can you believe that? You phone up, can you take a look? He's there in a couple of hours. He looks you over, examines you. So that's what they did. So they hired one guy. He would go around and do house calls for everybody. But they're making so much money, then they built him his own clinic. So now he could stay at the clinic and he could do house calls, or people could go to the clinic. After a couple of years, they had so much money, they built their own hospitals. And after a couple of years after that, they had so much money, they bought property and built picnic grounds and amusement parks and bandstands so that they could have concerts and dances for the members of the community. I mean, this is what you can do when people work together. It's unbelievable, Jason. So that is the solution. Now, I told you before that the powers that me know this is their Achilles' heel. They don't like it for us to work together because we pose a threat to them. What I tell people too is remember the people that rule the world, the difference between them and us is they belong to a mutual aid society. It's a secret society. It's secret because, they like to bond each other with a little child rape and murder. But that's how they got rich. They looked after each other. They helped each other. You're a member of the Skull and Bones, and then when you graduate, there's $250,000 in your bank account, and there's offers from every major corporation for a top-tier job, and free loans from the banks or interest-low loans from the bank. I mean, that's what those are some of the benefits you get from being a member of the Skull and Bones. Of course, you have to masturbate in a coffin and do it on camera, but so that they can blackmail you for the rest of your life. But this is a mutual aid society, and the reason all of us are poor is because we've been divided. We're now fighting amongst each other. We got to cut each other's throat for a buck. We won't work together, and so there's all of us one by one trying to make it into this world, and the people that run this world, they got a whole bunch of buddies that got their back in a mutual aid society that's worth trillions. So we got to fight fire with fire. We got to support each other. Now what happened is, and this began back in the 16th century, Protocrin, I can't remember his last name. He mentioned that in medieval and society, the peasants formed mutual aid societies. They were called village communities. So everybody that lived in the village owned all the property. So all the fields, they were owned in common with the people that lived in the village. And they worked those fields together. Almost like a commune, but they didn't live together. They all had their own, little cottage or their own house. But they contributed together to work the fields and to process the grains and to sell it on the market and deliver it. And when the money came in, then they would distribute it equally among all members of the community. So the medieval societies, the barons and the kings, went after them first. They appropriated the property, they confiscated it in the name of the king, and they destroyed those villages one by one by one. Done on purpose. So again, because they want us divided, bickering amongst each other, fighting each other, in competition with each other, because if we actually joined forces, the power we would wield is 100 times greater than the central banks and the big elites and all these sons of bitches. Listen, we outnumber them 7 billion to 1. They wouldn't stand a chance. So what they do is they divide us. Now with the friendly societies of the 1800s, the government went after them too. And one of the big players in that was the American Medical Association, the Rockefeller allopathic poison and cut philosophy. And they went after the doctors that worked for the friendly societies, and they said, we will no longer certify you as an MD if you continue to work for the Moose Lodge or the Elks Lodge or the Goodfellows or the Oddfellows. And so the doctors weren't allowed to practice medicine anymore. And without, the medical care, the purpose of all these friendly societies kind of collapsed, because that was, they were started so that, the ordinary working man could have access to medical care. And when the medical care was pulled out from underneath their feet by the American Medical Association, they started to collapse. And then in comes the government with different regulations. And now there's only, maybe a handful of friendly societies left. And they really don't do anything like they used to. But because what we're facing is going to be this total collapse of, social services and healthcare and grocery stores, the best solution is to resurrect the old friendly societies. Now we have another problem, Jason, and that is, again, the powers that be know if we cooperate, they're doomed. And so they have been undertaking a program of brainwashing and programming for at least 100 years. It starts with the public education system. You know, Charlotte Iserby, I think you had her on the show. She wrote the book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. She called it. That's not by accident that every generation seems to be getting dumber than the next. It starts in the schools, and then it goes into the high schools, and then they finish you off with college. Yeah, no, yeah, you still have a few IQ cells to rub together, IQ points to rub together. Well, you're ready for college then. We'll get rid of that. And then, you know, the programming with the TV and the movies and the music and the culture and the social media and that, they have absolutely stripped us of the ability to even work together, you know, to even cooperate on anything. We're divided. Oh, you're LGBT. No, you're Black Lives Matter. No, you're liberal. No, you're public. No, you're Christian. No, you're Muslim. I mean, they've divided us 1,000 different ways against each other, and they've inflamed everybody's, you know, now much lowered IQ. They've inflamed everybody's mentality into taking extreme offense. Oh my God, you don't agree with me? Then you're a stupid person, and you're blocked from my Facebook page. What, because you disagree? And I've seen this in families, you know, brothers and sisters and parents and their children, and everybody's at each other's throat. Well, my parents didn't vote the way I wanted them to. I won't be speaking to them. You mean your stupid opinion that's actually, by the way, not your opinion. That was programmed into you by media and your education system. You never came up with that independently on your own because you were searching the world for knowledge and you finally came to it isn't even your opinion, but you're willing to throw your parents, your children, your brothers, your own family under the bus because they disagreed with your stupid opinion that's not even yours. This is what they've done to us. So here's the answer, Jason. Yes, we need to form communities. Here's the problem. We have people incapable of doing that. Anyways, that's why I started to write this book. This is my attempt at solving this problem. Listen, if we can do this, and, you know, it doesn't have to be like a big community, 100 people, mutual aid society. Even if it's small circles, 3, 5 people. And those 3 and 5 people can cooperate with another small circle of 3 to 5 people that live 10 miles away. And if we can unite in this way, then we can overwhelm them. We don't need them. We can destroy them. They will be rendered powerless if we all look after each other. And that is the point of my course, and that is the point of my book.
Well said, well said, well said. And I'll tell you, you know, it's like a spiritual battle now. There's no doubt about it. You know, they've also, like you say, these sort of rendered people virtually helpless. Or also we've rendered ourselves virtually helpless by going along with it. But it's like I've said this many times. Well, look, it's like we're orphans looking for a mummy and daddy. You know, we're dumped in school as kids, and then what we're doing, the teachers also almost become our parents. Then it's we leave school, we're in a job, we're scared, more fear. Will we get fired? You know, and then it's politicians, presidents, popes. And I love your thing of building small communities. You know, as well, because I just drew some circles in a random sort of way on the paper as you were saying it. And if those circles can be seen as successful, exciting, independent templates without government control, then they will spread and there will be little dots around the planet, little patches, dots. And then they'll get closer together because someone say, well, we can live like that. You don't have to work all your life to pay for your house. You don't have to not see your family. You don't have to be in a fearful job. You don't, you know, you've got your own food, your own water, your own electricity, and you don't need the government. Oh my God, you know, imagine it. Yeah. So it's like a walking out of prison. But I think I'm glad you're doing this course and you're doing your book, Stefan, because you're giving people a template and some you're walking them through it. Because, I've said this many times, if we're all in prison, which we are, really, and someone says, hey, look, we can get out, we can dig a tunnel out. And they'll say, well, what's outside? How do you get there? Well, you've got to dig, and people say, well, at least I'm getting a bit of warmth. And yeah, I'm getting beaten with a stick every day and I'm full of fear. But you know what I mean? At least it's we know it. At least it's something we can rely on, even though it's abusing us. So I love that, and I think if we can create new societies which are exciting with our own doctors, with our own food, with our own herbalists, with our own shamans, with our own yoga teachers, with our own martial arts teachers like yourself. And what an exciting development that could be. And can you imagine how many other people would want to come? Yeah. You could say, hey, I've met these people. Honestly, it's not perfect, but guess what? They're independent. They don't need to work in normal jobs. They're on the land. They seem so grounded. They seem so spiritual. They seem so happy. Remember that, everybody? Happy? Remember that? Oh, what was that? I can't remember that. When people smile and they're enjoying their lives. I said to someone today, Stefan, one of my uncles in Kefalonia. He was one of the ones that went to New York. Kefalonia is a little Greek island where my name's from. He was one of the ones that went to New York to look for success, yeah? And he was one of the very smart ones that came straight back because he thought the treasure's where I didn't know it was, right under my nose, And I used to see him sitting there quietly on his own, Stefan, and most people would say, what are you doing? And he'd look at him and think, I don't understand what you mean. What am I doing? Well, you're not doing anything. No, I'm being, not doing. I'm being, that nourishment of the soul when you're sitting still and not doing anything. It's like we're so programmed, and those people lived longer out there because they had that nourishment of their own soul and their own spirit. And what a great time we're in, really. And you've been talking about this a long time, Stefan. And if we can build a couple of those little templates of communities where people can come and see, it's like, what, I can live like that, and what are people going to say? I want to be here with you. If they come on a course, an educational course, or a yoga retreat, or a martial arts retreat, or something. I want to be here. Oh my God, how can we do this? Well, you, and you go and sell your houses, and let's create another one.
Yeah.
If it's a successful template that works, create another one, create another one, create another one. And I would see it just going global, and that's what we're going to try and do,
Yeah. As an artist, you'd be interested in knowing that one of the successful communities that were formed, this is going way back to the 1850s and all the way around to the turn of the century, was artists' communities. They were inspired by Walt Whitman and who's that guy that wrote on Tilden Pond or something like that? They were inspired by the Back to the Earth movement. Can you believe that? I thought that was a hippie thing in the 70s. But the Back to the Earth movement goes all the way back to the 1830s. And what the artists did was they would all move into, or not all of them, but a number of them would move into a small town in the country. And they would rent houses within that town or buy homes within that town. And so it was not a commune, because I always tell people communes don't work. But... Ooh. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So everybody needs their own cottage. Even I'd be happy if everybody just had a little trailer or a little mini home or something like that. But you just can't you can't live together. Everybody needs their own toilet and their own dishwasher.
Their own privacy, their own personal space.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's
Very
what the
important.
artists would do. But then they would run it like a mutual aid society. So they would contribute a monthly fee, and for that they got, again, their medical care was taken care of. They would found buying groups so that they would buy all their groceries and produce at a discount because you're buying in bulk. You're not buying for one family, you're buying for 10 families. So you can negotiate a discount for that kind of money. They would pool their money to buy art supplies. So you needed brushes and paints, and you know how expensive that is these days. But the whole community would pitch in and buy all kinds of paints and brushes and art supplies they needed. And also the money that they had chipped in would be more than enough to pay for all of that. but it would also be enough to rent or buy a gallery in the town, and they would use that gallery to hold exhibitions and to sell their paintings through. So this was a wonderful organization. You know, if you were an artist, then you got to live cheap. You got to work together closely within a community with other artists that could help you and inspire you and talk to you, and then you would all work together to sell your artwork and to exhibit and put on shows and even have dances at the art gallery and potluck dinners and picnics by the sea. I mean, what a wonderful concept! And these weren't like hardcore survivalists. They didn't all have a bunker and machine gun. They were just artists that worked together, and they were able to do this. Now, the other thing I liked about the artists' communities, and this is what I'm putting in the book too, is you need a way of screening people before they can join your community. We got to keep the no, we got to keep the riffraff out, and you certainly got to keep the psychopaths out, because I liken the community to a lifeboat. We are on the Titanic. The ship of state is the Titanic. It's hit the iceberg. It's already taken on water. The keel is, the stern is up 45 degrees out of the water, and we're sinking fast. Everybody get to a lifeboat. So now we're in a lifeboat. Who are we going to let into the lifeboat? Right? So I'm sorry, not everybody can come on board. A lot, no, but a lot of people are completely useless for any practical purpose, and you can't carry them. Now, I include in my, I offer the suggestion in my template in the book that whatever community you form, you set aside 10% for the general public. So if I've got, 2 years worth of supply of food, and your community has 2 years supply worth of food, and there's mass starvation, I would still take a month's worth of that food, and I would set up a tent and a table, and I'd make a big giant pot of stew, and anybody else in the community that doesn't belong to my personal community, but the neighbors or remember, they got children too, right? Don't you want to make sure that they have a big bowl of stew, once a day? I would feed them too, but generally speaking, you can't carry the weight, not under the dire stresses we are going to be facing. So you need a way to filter people out. Now, what the artists did, and this is brilliant, and that is, if you wanted to join the art community, you had to produce a portfolio. And it would be the membership acceptance committee, whoever decided to, you form a little committee that would take new applicants, and they would go over the artist's portfolio to see if this was a serious artist. And if you were, then welcome to the community. If you were just a hack or you didn't have a portfolio, well, look, this is an artist community. You need to be able to prove that you can produce. So I'm putting this into the plan, which is the Community Survival Complete Guide to Community. The Complete Guide to Forming Communities. This is my plan. I'm putting it in there. And again, when you read it, it's up to you. It's all very democratic. You want to use my suggestions? Great. If you don't, up to you. But I'm putting in fail-safes as a way to screen potential members. And I'll give you one example. One of the communities I recommend people form is an autonomous survivalist community. So anyway, again, we are living in different parts of town. You could be living in different parts of the city, but you cooperate in those areas that you need: food, medicine, security, communications, and shelter. So we work together to provide that for each other, even though we're not working at, it's not like a militia. You got a piece of property out in the country and you all live there. It's not like that at all. Can be done where you live. If you're in an apartment, if you're in a house, if you're in a suburb, doesn't matter. This even works if you were to apply it to a homeless community. The same cooperation, working together, would apply to homeless people. So it doesn't matter about income. But again, you need to make sure that the people that join are capable of providing some kind of skills, some kind of talent, some kind of resources to the community. We can't carry people in the lifeboat. So one example that I use is that if I'm going to do a survivalist community, before you can join, and this of course applies to Americans, Canadians, but before you can join, you must provide a standard first aid certificate. Because what we're dealing with is going to be disasters and search and rescue and helping each other out. Everybody's got to know first aid. This is, like a basic human skill if somebody gets injured or sick. So you need to provide a first aid certificate. Now, if you already have one, great. You've already got those skills. Welcome on board. If they don't have one, that means they have to take a weekend off on their own and go and get it. Go take a course from St. John Ambulance. And it's, all day Saturday, half day Sunday. It's not a big commitment. But if they can't do that on their own, they're going to be useless as a member of your community. You have to be able to screen people out. They have to prove somehow that they have the skills and the ability to follow through in order to be qualified to join up with you guys. So, first aid certificate, number one. Number two, a firearms license. Now, that's very important. Here in Canada, to get a firearms license, you have to have a spotless criminal record. I mean, you can't owe money. You can't owe an outdated speeding ticket. You can't have a criminal record. I mean, you got to be spotless. And then, again, you need to take the weekend course. It's not a big deal. I think it's $150, $200. You go there all day Saturday and, 3/4 of Sunday and get your firearms license. But this proves, number one, that you're not a criminal. Because, again, not that I have anything against criminals. To be honest with you, I probably have committed a felony every day of my life. I'm not kidding. No, I'm not kidding. Because there are so many laws on the books that nobody knows.
I break the speed limit every time I go out.
There you go.
Every time I go on my motorbike, I go over 100 miles an hour just because I like it. Yep. I like to see it go. It's like there's too many rules.
Yeah, you're incorrigible.
And the other thing is, Stefan, you've got to screen people because they can screw the whole thing up, man. Exactly. I've seen it here. We've started groups here, we've done things, and one person can come in, right?
Yep.
You could call it a pain in the ass screening, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. In they come, and the next thing you know, it's a nightmare, And I've seen it happen again and again and again. Why? Because people want to build new societies and communities, but they're forgetting the biggest thing of all: their own absolute madness and imbalances.
Yeah.
So you can build any community, but if you're going to build it on madness and imbalances and not keeping ourselves treating others like we like to be treated and things like that, it's very basic. Yeah. I see it here in Totnes, where I live in Devon. It's quite a spiritual community, right? Well, supposedly. And Stefan, they're the biggest pain in the asses sometimes you could ever meet. I'm sorry to be judgy. And there's an old saying, camels can only see other people's humps and not their own. And people say, well, you're a pain in the ass as well. But I watch myself carefully. I'd like to treat people with respect and dignity and try and say nice things to people. But there's some people here, I'm not joking, and it's like they sit on their meditation pillows and it's like, well, everything's happening perfectly, don't look at anything negative, And here's a good one. Oh, you mustn't look at things, because if you look at, the terrible things governments are doing, then actually you're feeding it and what a lot of bullshit. No, yeah. Hey, look, wake up everybody, because the chains are going around your ankles and your throats and you've got a big awakening coming. And if you want to all go and stay in the chains and be good little girls and boys and do what you're told, as Gerald Salenti says, then fine. Yep. But we're not going to. You want to go along there, for God's sake, where I live here, there's people in the health shop and they're looking on the back of the tin cans and say, hey, I don't know, is this GMO free and things like that? And let me see the ingredients. Can you tell me again? And then they're going and getting the jab in their arm and they don't even know what the bloody ingredients is. Would you go in a restaurant if there was a sign outside saying, if you eat this food and die, we're not responsible, and you can't see what's in the ingredients? Are you completely crazy? It's like, come on, guys, man. It's time to wake up. It's time to see the corruption and look at what's going on, Anyway, I won't rant on about that, but you know, we're certainly, God, let's got an hour with you already. It's crazy. You know, I think it's so important to just be independent from government control for your food, electricity, and water. At least there's a little dial outside my house, Stefan, and when I open the tap, it clicks round. What for? Because they're charging you for your water that you can't even drink. It's so full of chlorine, it stinks like a swimming pool.
Yeah, yeah.
But what you mean? Humans are being charged for water on Mother Earth, our Mother Earth,
Yeah.
and we're being charged for food. I mean, for me, it's always felt weird. You know, it's bonkers.
Yeah, yeah, it's madness. It really is. It's not like I want to go back to the old ways because the old ways was insanity. Anyways, we were in slavery. But here's the thing, Jason. Listen, how long are we going to go? That's it's an hour.
Oh, I got another 10 minutes, and we got to close at 10 past. It's on the hour now.
Okay. Um, I lost my train of thought.
No, it's just I was saying about the insanity of it all. Look, the truth of the matter is, we're great artists of great magnificence. You know, talk about that. You know, before we close, Stefan, remind people of their magnificence. I mean, our abilities, our wills, our spirits have been choked off since we're little kids, like you said in the beginning,
Yeah.
and we've been rendered virtually helpless. What can we do? Our hands are tied. I was warning people years ago. If you don't watch out, you'll be outside the supermarkets like Oliver Twist with your little bowl,
Yep.
saying, "Please, sir, give me some more." And look now, yeah. So we were the nutcases years ago, Stefan.
Yeah.
Not anymore because we've been warning people. Some will go that way and do what they're told and queue up like they're in school, and others aren't going to. And society's been split down the middle, and it's time now to create something different and enter your book and your work and your online course. It's the perfect timing, Stefan.
Well, thank you, Jason. I heard a joke the other day I thought was kind of funny. What's the difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy fact? 6 months.
Wow. Yeah. So true, isn't it? Wow.
We were all conspiracy theories there a year and a half ago. We're going, oh, this is never going to go away. The lockup is never going to be, the lockdown's never going to be lifted. We're going to have to wear masks the rest of our lives, and we're going to have to get not one but 100 jabs. And everybody went, oh, no, that's a conspiracy. Vaccine passports? No, that's a conspiracy. And then 6 months later, oh, well, everybody has to have a vaccine passport. Yeah, look, we called it. But first of all, we have the external and the internal, the esoteric and the exoteric. And the exoteric is for us to form communities. The outward vision that we must create is our own communities. Solid people. We filter out all the riffraff, and there's going to be other ways. I got admission forms that you can download from the book. It's going to be, questionnaires so that you can go through it. See, is this somebody that wants to be, even psychopath checklists that you can check off to me. No, but we got to be careful about these people, and what you said about the spiritual communities. I had an interview the other day, and we were talking with this lady. I said, yeah, spiritual communities where the guru is sleeping with all the women. She says, and the men.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why waste an opportunity? Oh God, totally. Those days, Stefan. God.
Yeah, we've been there. We've done that, Jason. Right? I've been to all the spiritual communities too. They're in California. Okay, listen, but folks, this is a spiritual battle. We are incarnated in this time to fight against utter, absolute evil. That's what our governments are. That's what the corporations are. That's what Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and Fauci and all these. And Boris there in your country, this is pure evil, and we are literally in a Lord of the Rings type battle. We are the men of the West. We are fighting against Mordor, and the orcs and the goblins. I mean, it really is like that. If you could see these people for what they are, they would look like orcs and goblins. They really would. They're just ugly, ugly people. And we have to fight against them. And so it's a spiritual battle. But you need to gird yourself. You need to And this is why I came out with my book, The Way of the Warrior. You need to become warriors. And a warrior is, as Confucius said, somebody that practices, yes, swordsmanship and fighting and combat, but somebody that also is an artist, is a poet, is a musician, is a craftsman, is a historian, and is a philosopher. That's what a warrior is. It's not just somebody doing martial arts or anything like that. Yeah, it's a tool. Martial arts is a tool, but everything else has to come in. You need to get in touch with your artistic self, your creative self, but because we're artistic and creative, we are vulnerable to these evil people, and that's why you need to be a warrior, to defend your spirit against attack from evil. And so, I recommend, going out in the woods, going outside as often as possible. Like you said, just sitting there in the chair, doing nothing. I recommend that. I think that is healthy. That feeds your soul. And we need to feed our soul because we're not getting it from media or anything like that. And the things that feed your soul, as Gurdjieff said, is art. That's what raises your level of being. So you and I were both artists, Jason, except you are in a league far beyond me. And as I mentioned during the online course, one young guy wrote a very nice commentary, a young black man. He said, I listened to Stefan's course, and he really encouraged me because he was an artist, right? And he said, what Stefan told me is that the artists are responsible for feeding the soul of society. And so now he feels like it does have a purpose. We don't all have to be, running around with machine guns. An artist is responsible for uplifting the society around them. Whatever art you do, music, dance, painting, pottery, anything, all of that will feed your soul. And we need to feed our souls because it's a spiritual battle. And that's why you need to be strong and you need to be happy and healthy.
Well said, Stefan. Thank you for all that. It's great to be here with you, and it's an honor to know you. I really mean it. And my God, all the work you've done over the years is suddenly now coming to the tip of the spear where we're needing your work so urgently, And I'll just show you books before we go again. If I got them on there, just check if they're there again. 1 second. Thanks, Stefan. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, Defense Against the Psychopath there, and Household Cyclopedia, 36 Strategies of Ancient China, Little Warriors, Street Safety, Teacher's Guide, wonderful. The Art of Urban Survival, A Family Safety and Self-Defense Manual, The Way of the Warrior, absolutely magnificent. And of course, I got to show my book. There's mine, The Emergency Transformation of Human Beings as the Solution to the World's Problems. That was about 12 years too early. It's very poignant now. I'm getting some nice reviews on that. And Stefan, I'm gonna just round the show off now. After I say goodbye to you, and I just want to say again, I really mean it. Thank you so much. Now, your online course, it's chinastrategies.com, right?
No. Well,
where's the best place?
You can find it from my main website, but I just uploaded a new website. It's called formingcommunities.com.
Lovely. I'll put that link underneath this show, yeah?
Communities,
sure. Formingcommunities.com.
And that's
lovely.
Dedicated to the book and the course, and I'm updating it all the time, so there'll be things up there.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's great, Stefan. Thank you very much for everything you're doing, and it's very important, and there's no doubt about it. You're exactly at the right time now to be you, and we've waited a long time for this, and it's a great, exciting time to be on the planet as the smelling salts hits more noses. So, and that's thanks to your work over the years. More people are waking up. So I really appreciate your work. And like I said, I love you dearly, and thank you so much.
Thank you too, Jason, and I love you more.
I love you more. Take care, right? Thanks, Stefan. God bless you, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.